the past 35 years, I've been trying to make sense of Japan. I got a degree in Japanese language, got a degree in Asian studies, lived here over 21 years, and every time I think I've got it, every time I think I've cracked the code, something happens that makes me think, I'm just scratching the surface. What do I mean by this? Well, every time I think I understand something, there's another layer. So let's look at some examples. What does everyone say when they visit Japan? The streets are clean, the service is excellent, and the trains run on time. These things stand out because they're easily observable. The most obvious things to observe, in fact. In isolation, each of these things is amazing. The streets are clean because people don't litter. Kind of obvious, even though there are no garbage cans. You'll hear all sorts of explanations. It's all about respect for the environment, respect for your neighbors. You don't want to bring shame on your whole family by littering. And when you stay at a hotel or eat at a restaurant, you're always amazed at how good the service is, even if you don't have to tip, and my American friends are pretty happy about that. They must do it out of respect for the honorable guest, right? Trains run on time. Meetings start and finish on time. Well, at least they start on time. And if you plan a dinner party and everybody who RSVPs shows up, they also show up on time. The train companies must be expert planners, and since everything's so well maintained, there are minimal delays, right? It's almost as if 2,000 years ago, a group of people sat down and said, we're going to make a society that is so different from the rest of the world that when the internet is finally invented, people will rave about how Japan has these clean streets, excellent service, and everything runs on time and everything works. But clean streets, excellent service, and punctuality are just the surface. There's something much deeper going on. Wait, before I explain that, let's rewind. You see, I moved to Japan when I was 21 years old. Back home, I was socially awkward, and coming to a new country with all the awkwardness and not knowing what's going on made it even more awkward. We're not just talking fish out of water. I was floundering. Wait for it. We're talking fish out of water, trying to get directions without understanding the language, way before smartphones. The one thing I wanted more than anything was just to fit in. I did everything I could. I studied Japanese, I read books, I tried to learn how to bow, I watched TV, way too much TV. I asked a lot of questions too. Some of them good questions. But I was often reminded that no matter how hard I try, I'll never fit in completely because I'm not Japanese. And furthermore, I didn't have a Japanese upbringing. Hopeless, right? Probably. There are way too many rules. The obvious ones are easy. Don't litter. I didn't litter back home. No problem, right? Don't talk on the train. Well, back in the 90s, if you spoke English in public, people would stop what they're doing and stare at you. That's pretty awkward, especially if you're insecure. And if you look like me and speak Japanese, people really stared. So most of the time, I just kept quiet. Just kind of tried to stay under the radar. There are customs about going to weddings and funerals as well. And you can learn those things from a book because they're written down. And why are they written down? Because even Japanese people have to consult an expert about the rules of etiquette before going to an important event. Companies have classes for new graduates on keigo, acceptable hairstyles, polite language, how to dress for work, how to exchange business cards. I read every book I could find on business etiquette, but I still made mistakes. People could see I was trying, so they were usually pretty kind to me. But when I started to work in a large company where I was one of the only foreigners, I found out there was a whole list of unwritten rules that I was breaking without even knowing it. I was thrown into a game without a rule book, and there was nobody there to guide me. I was frequently in trouble with my coworkers and my boss because I broke a rule that I didn't know existed, and nobody even bothered to explain why I was in trouble. A lot of these issues occurred because I didn't have a Japanese upbringing, and I found that learning the language without learning the rules was like knowing all the notes on a piece of paper without being able to find them on a piano. Not the best analogy, but whatever. So Japanese people learn their own culture through a seamless, lifelong mix of family, school, community, media, and social interactions. Culture is not a separate topic. It's the air they breathe. And since Japan doesn't have a history of immigration, they've never had to explain these unwritten rules to a foreigner. Problem is, though, they still look down on people who don't follow the unwritten rules. Now I love puzzles. I was the first kid in my school to solve the Rubik's Cube. Every case I worked on as a lawyer was a puzzle to solve. And I thought if Japanese culture is another puzzle, it can be solved. So I spent years trying to learn all the unwritten rules. Don't leave before your boss. Don't talk about your personal life at work. I got a video about that. You can see that in the description below. Now, other things like when to speak at a meeting, when not to speak, even more importantly. Things got better for me and I got along with my coworkers. I enjoyed working, but I was always playing catch up. Then something amazing happened, and suddenly everything made sense. I had heard the word many times over the decades. I thought I knew what it meant, but one day a Japanese friend brought it up in casual conversation. The concept is meiwaku. It's a thread that runs through every relationship, every interaction. So I did a deep dive on the concept. What does it mean? Why is it important to understand? What causes it? More importantly, how to avoid it? Well, there are a few definitions like trouble, nuisance, inconvenience. Why is it important? Well, because much of getting through life in Japan is spent avoiding doing anything that causes meiwaku. Another way to say it is, don't do anything that stands out. This is not about conformity. Conformity is when you change your behavior to match the behavior of the people around you. Japanese people don't have to conform because they've all grown up learning the same rules. Like I said before, culture is not a separate topic. It's the air they breathe. So the idea of not causing meiwaku explains almost everything. People don't litter because that would cause a burden for others. Somebody else has to clean it up. It also makes other people uncomfortable. The service is excellent because the staff doesn't want to inconvenience a customer with a bad experience. The trains run on time for the same reason. The train company doesn't want to inconvenience passengers. In fact, my train was just a couple minutes late this morning, and the conductor profusely apologized for causing meiwaku. If the train's ever late, the station master gives you a little slip of paper like this. It's your kind of get-out-of-jail-free card when you get to work. Now, you don't have to worry about conforming if you already know all the accepted behaviors of society. It's not about self-control either. It's not that people want to do something, then they look around and notice nobody else is doing it and decide not to do it. They just don't consider it in the first place. Another Japanese friend put it this way: don't impose your presence on others. And this is where a big surprise comes in for many visitors. Trust me, you're not going to believe it. A deeper understanding of Japanese culture is instructive here. We need to go beyond making too much noise or taking up too much space. We've all heard that talking loud on the train is considered bad manners. And taking up too much space, like, those people who sit way back in their chair and take up the whole space between two tables in a crowded restaurant, that's also considered bad manners. But here's where the big surprise comes in. Please promise not to shoot the messenger, okay? Fragrances. It's not just about heavy perfume on a crowded train. Many Japanese people report sensitivity to fragrances. This means cologne, perfume, shampoo, even laundry detergent. That's why you'll find so many brands in Japan that are fragrance-free. There are schools, companies, even some local governments that have a no-scent or light scent policy. There are even restaurants that won't allow people wearing any fragrance to enter. You'll sometimes see a poster at a government office that says, some people are sensitive to fragrances. Of course, there's no bright line rule. There are some younger people who wear cologne or perfume, and some people like scented candles. Incense is all over Japan, so you can't say that every Japanese person is allergic to every fragrance. But when you put it all together, you don't have to remember a myriad of rules because there are way too many. And the endless list of unspoken rules can be different based on who you talk to. But you're fairly safe if you remember that avoiding meiwaku just means you don't impose your presence on others. That means you don't do something that makes them late. You don't do something that causes them discomfort. And having learned this code, I no longer have to worry about fitting in. So do I get it right every time? Not even close. Sometimes the choice isn't clear. And while you're thinking it through, the impulse to do something usually fades, so you do nothing. It's the safest thing. But I get it right more often than I get it wrong because I focus on not causing inconvenience for others. Before I do something, I think it through. Will this affect others around me, my company, my coworkers, strangers, friends? If there's a risk that it might, I just don't do it. I even apologize when something goes wrong, even if I didn't cause it. If it takes too long to get somewhere because the train is late, which is pretty rare, I apologize for making people wait, even though it's not my fault. But a simple, sorry to keep you waiting, goes a long way. Treating people right is a down payment on the future of the relationship. Because relationships are long-term, you don't want to damage that relationship. You see, it's reciprocal. Now, one of the most common comments I get on this channel is, why does every content creator in Japan seem to be an American in Tokyo? Well, if you've had the same question, check out Ohazas. He's an Australian in Nagoya.
Welcome to the Ohazas channel. It's John here in Nagoya, Japan, and I'm originally from Sydney, Australia.
Not American, not in Tokyo. Go check him out. You'll thank me later. Another comment I get is, why don't Japanese people just say what they mean? Well, that's an even deeper concept called tatemae, and you can watch that video by clicking right here as soon as it's finished. And in the meantime, you can watch this video about shame-based culture in Japan.